Hello there and welcome to another After Effects tutorial for Why the Media. In this one we're going to learn how to make a cool Netflix documentary swipe paintbrush text animation. So here's what I've made, and then it fades out. So we're going to make this little cool paintbrush that you would see in maybe True Detective or some gritty HBO documentary. And this is actually a concept that I pitched, and I believe a different producer at the TV station I'm working at actually came up with the idea for it though. But yeah, let's get started. So first things first, I think we actually need to download something. So I actually went ahead and cut out this little paintbrush texture, and you can actually download it. So what I did is I made it into a PNG, so it has a transparent background, and in the URL you're just going to click on this, I believe it's called an Imgur. I don't know how to pronounce it though, but you're going to go to the link, you're going to right click it, and you're going to go download, or you're going to hit save image, and you're going to save it, and then you just got to remember wherever you're going to put it. So we're going to open up After Effects. I'm going to close out of this composition, and I'm going to start a new one, and I'm going to call it Cool Brush Title. Alrighty, so I downloaded my own brush, and I'm just going to put it in the composition. Just have a white background because it's a black brush, and if you can remember the last one, it was red. I'm going to show you how to change the color and do all sorts of things. The only other thing is this is some stock footage I have. You can use whatever, you don't have to use the background. I just think it's a good example for this tutorial. I'm going to turn it off. In the end, I'm going to put it back on to show you how it is. So let's get going. Alright, I'm just going to make some text on it. I'm just going to call it title. And I'll make sure it's in caps because it just looks good. And like I said last time, thick text always looks best when we're doing animations. So we're going to go there, and we're going to make it an alpha invert map. So what that is it's just punching a hole on this brush PNG with the text that's above it. And we're actually going to pre-comp this. So selecting both by hitting clicking on one and then holding shift and clicking the other one. You can also click it and hold control for the other one. And then after they're both selected, I'm going to hit control shift C. Pre-comp it. Call it brush texture. Alright, after we do that, I'm going to click off this and click off of my kind of composition and everything that's on the screen right now, because for the next thing is that we're going to create a shape layer, and it's going to be a custom shape layer. And if you accidentally have something selected while you do this, you're going to click the pen tool, you're accidentally going to create a mask, and then it's just going to be kind of a mess. So you don't want to do that. So do not do what I just did. So to make sure you don't do that, make sure you have your selection tool selected and click off. Alright, now with everything click off and nothing selected, we're going to hit that pen tool again, and I'm just going to, very barely kind of trace after this shape. And the reason we're doing this is because, let me turn this off because it's actually easier to see. And the reason why we're slightly tracing the shape is because when I was studying how to make this technique, I found that brushes, when they're painted on, sort of, you can kind of get an idea of how they're going to look depending on when they're being put on. It's just a small little detail, but all those little details end up making something looking really good. So just make sure you create a full shape, and after that I'm just going to hit enter on this and call this mask. And in addition to that, I'm going to go to effects. You can see a little bit of what I'm going to do next though, but I'm going to type in GA and put a Gaussian blur on it. Not Gaussian blur legacy, just regular Gaussian blur. There is a difference. And then just crank it up to where I can tell that the edges are fuzzy, but we're we can't see what is underneath it. So after we do that, we're going to set the brush, change it to alpha matte, and then about there we're going to go to about a second in, and I'm going to select the mask, hit P, make a keyframe, and I'm going to go back to the beginning and just move it all to the side. Select both these keyframes, hit F9, go into the graph editor, select, and make sure to see that this graph editor is working how you want to. After you hit the graph editor, you want to make sure it shows the speed graph and it has this selected. So just make sure that these options are selected, because sometimes the graph editor can be a bit weird. So after you have those selected, you're just going to mess with the curve, so it just makes a nicer animation. So after we do that, we're going to see this play out and see, look, we almost have, something kind of creative. And normally I like to make this go a little bit faster, somewhere about a quarter or 75% of a second. There we go, kind of like that. And what I'm actually going to do is select both of these and pre-comp that once again. This is a different way to pre-comp, is to hold both and then right click. I like using the shortcut Control-Shift-C, and then I'm just going to call this brush animation. Oops, I have my capital X on. Alright, now we can do a couple cool things. So I'm just going to turn on this background, and as you can see, when I turn off the background by just toggling this transparency grid, you can see that the title, how it's cut out, punched out like a cookie cutter, the center of it with the text. So I'm just going to put it back on, and I'm going to type in tint. We're just going to go to the regular tint, drag it over the brush animation, and what the tint does is that it does exactly what it says. It creates a tint, and so it's going to create, if you have something that's colored, it's going to make it gray or black and white. So since this is black, we can just edit directly the blacks by clicking on the black. If this was white, we could just do that, but since it's black, we just invert it or we just change the color how it is. So I'm just going to go up here, make a nice red. This red is BD0202 if you want to follow along. I just discovered this right now, but it looks good to me. So after you do that, I'm actually just going to turn on the background just for a nice little example. And voila! It looks pretty cool, but there's a couple other things that we can do to make this just a slightly nicer. So the first thing we can actually do is make this grow, and so whenever I'm doing motion graphics, I kind of always want movement on everything. So for making things grow subtly, I like to go to the very end, go to the beginning, and how I want it to start, and then at the very end, you only want to go to slightly. You want it to be pretty subtle. I actually find that about 117 is pretty good. We want it to be very subtle. And then another way to make it more dynamic is I'm going to add a drop shadow. And for this drop shadow, I like my drop shadows to be pretty dang subtle, but still there. So I'm going to the distance, and then I'm just making it very soft, so you can barely tell. And I actually like bringing up the opacity, so about there. So you can definitely see the drop shadow. And then if there was only going to add one more thing on it, is that about 4 seconds I would hit T, create a keyframe. It's going to change the opacity, and then make it just kind of fade out by going a couple seconds afterwards and just bringing it to 0. You can even easy ease. I actually kind of like easy and ease fade outs. It just kind of makes it a more interesting effect. And that's basically the tutorial. It's a fast one, and just imagine it's like girl disappeared. We can't find her. Dun, 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 dun. Your title. So, I don't know. It's a pretty cool effect. It's nice, it's subtle, it's easy. So, this is a pretty short tutorial. Thank you so much for following. Hit that like button if you liked it.